Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining another episode of Best Practices. My name is Steve Alexander. I am head of growth at Anagram. I'm joined by Greg Naes. He is the founder and president of BlueTech. Welcome, Greg.
Hey, appreciate you having me.
It's my pleasure. So today we wanted to discuss a couple of things, but I think the topic that we landed on is best practices for entering the performance and wellness space as an eye care practice. I recognize this is a big topic. There are a lot of different ways we could take this, but I know with what you do at BlueTech and the research that you do and the studies that you put together that this is something near and dear to what you guys do. So I'd love your interest, like why you want to discuss this today.
Yeah, Steve, I think you bring up a great point. Let's just unpack sleep for a minute because it is so massive. One example would be is melatonin. It's one of the top supplements that we buy online through CVS, Walgreens, places like that. And so what's interesting about melatonin is, as one component of sleep, is it really puts the consumer to be their own doctor, which can be very dangerous. And I could really go on for days about this, but let's attack it specifically is to say, sleep is a huge challenge. We go 100 miles an hour doing all these kind of things. Then we introduce all kinds of harsh lighting environments and things that attack our day. They attack our energy levels throughout the day. And many people, millions and millions of people self-diagnose melatonin. So for example, I hear this all the time is, hey, look, I'm really, really tired tonight. I'm going to take 10 milligrams of melatonin or 20. Well, I'm not so tired today. I'm going to take 2 milligrams. Well, what happens here is we're over or understimulating a very, very delicate process. We're supposed to wake up. We're supposed to get a little bit of light. Our sleep-wake cycle allows us to go throughout the day. We're supposed to go home to a pitch black cave, secrete melatonin, and get a deep, restful night's sleep. But instead, we're surrounded by these screens, overhead lights, and all kinds of stimulus constantly that disrupts our sleep.
And I haven't been to a cave in a long time.
Yeah, I know. Me neither, right? So I always joke with people, we really are cavemen and cavewomen in its simplest form. We just happen to change our entire environment around the caves that screws it up. But one of the things, back to your core point of how glasses can come into play, is sleep is massive. I think we can all do this experiment. Many of us do it often. Is we don't get a great night's sleep. We have our coffee that we must have in the morning. We fight our way through the day and limp into a night's sleep. And what happens is we're not as productive, we're not as alert, can lead to safety issues in the job, can really deteriorate irritability, focus, all those things in the short term. But that disruption to our cavemen, cavewoman design over time, that constant stimulate and suppress can lead to some really, really serious long-term health issues.
And caffeine is an interesting topic all on its own, right? I read a book called Caffeine by Michael Pollan a few years ago, and it made me concerned that it's got like a 12-hour half-life. So it takes about 12 hours for the caffeine that you drink in a cup of coffee to leave your body. So if you're having coffee at noon, which I am right now, that means 12 hours from now, you're not going to be able to fall asleep. And caffeine does an interesting thing. Like, it doesn't actually give you energy. It doesn't actually make you more alert. What it does is it stops your body from telling you that you're tired. In the same way that ibuprofen and acetaminophen, they don't get rid of your headache. They just stop your body from telling you that you have a headache. You are still tired. You just can't feel it.
Yes. 100%. And what is interesting, if you can put melatonin somewhat in that vein, and I think we know this, there's been countless articles about this, is there's no regulation in the OTC space right around supplements. So you're looking at a label, but oftentimes what says in the label isn't actually in the supplement. Right. So there's always that risk. And a dear doctor friend of mine, she says often, she goes, listen, anything that you put into your body has risk of contraindicating other things you're taking and other lifestyle things. So in a perfect world, the less things you can put in your body, the less risk of intrusion or disruption. But back to say melatonin, what's interesting, and I'm sure some of the audience has read this, American Journal of Medicine, tons and tons talking about melatonin itself, especially in the under 40 crowd, is if you self-diagnose melatonin, you're naturally disrupting that sleep-wake cycle. You're potentially risking contraindication with other things that you're taking. And interestingly enough, if you're young and you're taking melatonin, this is why often a lot of pediatrics do not recommend melatonin. What happens is they lose their ability to naturally produce melatonin. So I could go on for days with this, but what's interesting is that's the crazy wheel that we operate on each day. Over, understimulate, self-diagnose, and all of that. And what's interesting, the opportunity for sleep is if you're wearing proper glasses with proper medical education, what can happen is, me taking these glasses on and off is not going to do anything intrusive to my insides, right? I'm just going to put on a pair of glasses and my melatonin levels can improve upwards to 300%, my ability to focus to 47%, and my overall productivity as a result of that in the workplace. You can feel confident through studies you're going to get that impact. And Steve, here's where it's interesting is, we're talking about that island of eye care now coming into mainstream wellness, is this works whether you have a prescription or whether, think about the huge audience of those that either don't wear glasses, don't have a prescription, or they wear contact lenses. Now we wear contact lenses. We've got something affixed to our eye in this heavy stimulus, light, dry eye allergy world, right? That's irritating us. And now we could put on, these glasses in the form of rescue, right? To improve the wellness, but just to cut out the visual and light noise that's entering our body. And it's such a, I don't want to overdo it, but it's so massive what this opportunity is. And the use case and the best practice around it is look online. There are so many companies selling blue light non-prescription glasses. And here's the interesting thing is that in eye care, we have this huge opportunity to say, I'm not going to fall for what manufacturers say, just because I block 20% of blue light, I must magically impact the medical conditions, right? We as eye care practitioners can control that message and avoid them going online to some group, right? Like Amazon searching blue light glasses and coming back with, just because it matches blue light, it must magically do something. And I want to be clear, there are a few online providers that believe in the science and actually have medical proof their glasses work, but wouldn't it be neat if eye care could own that space in conjunction?
I think importantly about that with direct-to-consumer products, it is very difficult for your typical layperson to identify a blue light purveyor online that cares about the science and one that doesn't. People have gotten very clever about how they present scientific sounding stuff without actual verified proper science. People can make claims that on the surface sound like something that matters, but if you understand the physics behind it or the science behind it, it doesn't really. We'll reduce 50% of blue light, but what does that actually mean? What 50% of which blue light, in which wavelength? And just that it blocks that light, does that actually do anything positive? And we can ask questions like that, and we can look at studies that indicate one way or the other, but your average consumer looking for a solution won't do that. Now, I know we can talk about sleep and we can talk about melatonin and what blue light does, but it's not limited. This conversation shouldn't be limited to that. And I think back to when I started in eye care a million years ago. I was a distributor for Oakley, and Oakley had come out with their G30 lens, which was this light rose tinted lens supposed to be for golf, right? And it is a it is a performance product, or it was positioned as a performance product. It highlighted the differences between greens, and that's just like a color theory thing that pink does. And I don't know how well it had taken off. It wasn't something that we did a lot of in my practice, and I don't know if that Oakley still does it or any company still does it, but that's the kind of performance stuff that people want more of in 2025 than they did in 2001. People are more accustomed to having a full kit for the things they're passionate about. Like if you think a golfer who spends hundreds of dollars on every club wouldn't spend a couple $100 on a pair of glasses that might shave a stroke or two off their game, you're kidding. You're kidding yourself. Like they absolutely will. And if you're the practice that helps them do that, then you become their hero. And if you become one golfer's hero, you'll become like a poorly kept secret among golfers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well said. I think, maybe I don't want to go too deep, but one step might be, as we think about how do we jump into this, is I heard this from Dr. Friend the other day. He goes, one way, because I was asking, how do you simplify this in your mind, right? With all the products and services and things coming at you. He said, one thing I've done specific to blue light, now that there's definitive science, whether you believe in blue light as a thing or it's not, that if I wear these glasses, I can improve sleep, health, and productivity. He says, I no longer talk about blue light anymore. I make it very much just symptom solution. If they have on the intake, or I ask them basic, not time-consuming questions, or I see that they're wearing, a Fitbit, an Apple Watch, or one of the rings that's glowing at me when I turn the lights down in the exam room, immediately what I'm mapping in my brain is to say, I can prescribe something for this person that they say that they take melatonin. They say that they're on sleep meds or ADHD medicine. I know almost immediately I can get them a pair of glasses that will solve their challenges or help solve their challenges. And then if I see the other components, just the wellness, and they don't have it on the workup, I know that they care about their sleep because they're probably measuring it. I know they care about just productivity and wellness in general. And I know this is an excellent opportunity, whether I have a prescription or not, that I can educate and prescribe. And so I just thought that was a great, for me, that put it all together. I'm thinking, okay, he's like, blue light, when you search it online, is confusing. And the thing we found out painfully at BlueTech, because it would have been so easy, I'll be brief, is to say, we thought, gosh, if we just make a lens, ours is not a tint or a coating, so we do that to keep color perception the way it needs to be, and tints fade. But moreover, what we did is we thought, gosh, if we just block 80% of the blue light or 90%, pick a number, that is going to correlate to a university independent study that's going to say, I'm going to improve melatonin levels, REM sleep, duration sleep, alertness, and cognition. And Steve, the crazy part was we wasted so much money on this because there is not a direct correlation. You can't just dial it up and say, if you block X, you're going to impact the medical conditions. But you can use the medical conditions and say, this particular lens has been proven to do X, Y, and Z. And that is where I think the power comes in from the Eyecare practice. And it does not take much time to do something like this. And again, opens up that whole population, that whole health and wellness that Eyecare on an island has been missing for so many years.
There are a couple of things in there that I think are really important to point out. Your doctor friend who shared that story, I think, touched on something really important. We have a tendency in Eyecare to discuss features with patients about like what a thing does, like the anti-reflective coating eliminates glare, or polarized lenses change the way they eliminate reflections or blinding glare off of reflective surfaces, or what have you. And the opticians listening to this, the optometrists listening to this, know what I mean when I say that. But a patient who hears that, they don't know what eliminating glare means. They can't fathom what glare is, to say nothing of how it eliminates it. But if you instead position it as the benefit to the patient, so like your doctor friend was saying, I'm not talking about blue light. You're concerned with sleep. I'm going to give you a pair of glasses that helps you with sleep.
Yeah,
You've
you're
presented the
exactly.
problem. Here is the solution to that problem. I can tell you more if you're interested, but really, you came in and told me you have this problem, and great news, I've got a solution for you.
Yeah. Well said. And the other thing he mentioned that I thought was neat, he's got a great analogy for this. He goes, today our world is most people that work, have families, all the common things is it's life on a treadmill. And things are going so fast. People really just want you to identify what the problem is and give them the solution to the problem, right? I mean, that is most of what we find out there. And this wellness community, they're all about productivity. They're all about getting things done, improving their health and everything like that. So they're just dying for this solution. It's just the fun part is this is an area of the ecosystem, i.e., eyeglasses, they never thought could do a thing.
Right.
And so it's really pretty cool. And I asked him just one other quick question on that. I said, well, how do you balance this with therapeutics and drugs that you prescribe and things like that? He said, I literally put it in the same exact bucket because actually the science for the glasses is stronger than most of the therapeutics that I have. And he said, we look at a practice and say, all right, when these common conditions or preventative or improvement type of things come into play, I map it to a very specific independent medical based solution. And he said it makes it so much simpler and it allows for so much more efficiency. He said, because we're so busy in the practices, right? It's just, it really simplifies it for myself, for my team and my staff and everything like that. So I thought that was an interesting way to put it together.
Absolutely. I've been saying for years something like eyewear is eye care. There is this perception that those are distinct things, right? Like the eye care happens in the exam lane and then glasses are made in the dispensary, but they're not separate. They might be physically separate, but they are not conceptually separate. Eyewear is eye care, and that is more true now than it was when I started saying it. Like, think about all the things, those of you that are listening, think about all the things that happen in your practice or in your colleagues' practices when it comes to like myopia management, right? Whether it's specific soft contact lenses or ortho K, where people are wearing contact lenses overnight and it's affecting their vision throughout the day. That is a concrete example of eyewear being eye care. If we're talking about blue light filters in lenses and the effect that it can have on melatonin production or sleep, like the measured concrete effect that it can have, that is another example of eyewear as eye care. Like, yes, and I've gone back to this already, but yes, glasses can make you look cool, or they can make you look smart, or they can help you see, they can help you read, but there is more that they can do. And I think pigeonholing ourselves to thinking they are just for refractive problems is a mistake, and long overdue that we move past that. One other kind of component that I would love your take on, Greg, I know it's not necessarily blue light related, but if we're talking about eye care practices, especially independent eye care practices entering the performance and wellness space, it's more than just having a product to offer. It's having a set of solutions for a given set of problems. So you've seen the influx of, I think you mentioned Maculogics, there's MacuHealth, there are Vision Essentials, like lots of nutraceuticals that have carotenoids that do a lot of great things, have been proven to do a lot of great things. Not just visual things, not just macular related things, but cognitive related things. And this is a performance component that is getting more and more attention as we get there. And I think the overarching thing that is important about this conversation in particular is it helps your practice set itself apart from everybody else. Most people who are listening to this are in practice in some kind of community where you're competing with online retailers and local retailers, sometimes locally owned retailers, but sometimes corporately owned retailers. And the corporate ones, they can't do this stuff. They don't have the time to do this stuff. So if you're looking for an easy way to set yourself apart in a way that drives business and helps your patients, and I'm emphasizing and helps your patients, looking into performance consumers and what you can do to help them is a great path forward.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, there's a host of things, right, that can do, and certainly there's a lot of supplements on the market, eye supplements and everything like that. And it's a little bit the Wild West, but there's certainly some that can add value in this particular space, right? The only thing I've just heard over and over, especially the last 6 months, is just anything you put into your body, right, that supplement in nature, is just making sure there's, you have the integrity of the label coming into it. And unintentionally, we want to get most of our stuff from food, right, as it relates to these kind of key things. But certainly it's an area of practice that you can look into and can be great for you, no question. Yeah, no doubt about it. I was thinking it might be helpful in the spirit of best practices to go through maybe how we might bring eyeglasses off this island best practices inside the clinic, right? What might be a methodology? And I must plagiarize, right? Because I've asked a lot of doctors how they do it, and I've tried to just come up with a basic formula that maybe all of your listeners could apply inside the clinic, and we're happy to share it as well if you think that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything hard-won lessons that we can share is fully in the spirit of best practices. Yeah, take it away, Greg.
Yeah, no, sure. So, and I have to give her credit. So, much credit is was asking, and this is a hybrid of multiple doctors, but the uniform step one that I heard is it's a great opportunity to hold your vendors accountable. I say vendors, partners, right? The term, labs and lens companies and things like that. But first and foremost, I think it's getting yourself educated as a practice, getting copies of the studies that you can use when your patients ask, right? So one, it takes a little myth busting, right? Is to say, there's not a correlation between blue light blocking percentage and actual medical impact, which allows us to get off that island and into the mainstream. So that's one fundamental thing. So almost educating your labs and lab partners is a great space, because I know it's a little backwards doing it that way, but there's a lot of labs that are royally confused as well. They just think, gosh, I'm going to get the very cheapest blue blocking solution, and that's magically going to solve all the problems that are out there. And it's that
and
kind of
it's hard to blame the labs in that circumstance, because I'm sure they get tons of calls, like, for people asking for a blue light solution, and then I'm sure the very next thing they hear is, why is that so expensive? Get me a cheaper blue light solution.
Yes, yes. It's not easy.
Yeah.
This first part is the hardest part. The rest is very, very basic, I think, in nature. Just what is seen, what I've seen in other places. But it really is a huge opportunity, and I don't blame them either. You're getting questions from your customers saying, "Just give me the cheap blue light thing that's coming in there." The sad part is, the opportunity is now for us as Eyecare folks to leave our island and come to mainstream medical. If we operate in those kind of practices, just give me the cheapest blue light thing I can, labs, just save 9 cents on your, or a few dollars on that. That's the very bad practice that's going to eliminate this wonderful opportunity for us, because now we're no different than those that are selling garbage, online or in bulk, at airports and reading glass stores and things like that, right? There's some online folks, and happy to share it with the practitioners, that do amazing products, and we're happy to share that. But again, in my mind, this is a huge privilege and a big opportunity. As my son says often, the Spider-Man thing, with what is it?
With with great
great
power
opportunity.
comes great
Yes, thank you,
responsibility.
thank you. Man, I had my stage. I couldn't remember it, but that is exactly. We have the opportunity here to get off the island to mainstream, and the first step to doing that is getting in sync with our optical labs. And I promise you, the right lab is going to appreciate that.
You know, I've
But
been a Spider-Man fan my entire life, and
yes,
I've never applied that that line to what you're describing. Thank you for doing that, because it is a responsibility. Actually, it is a
totally.
responsibility. So, and that's like in my consulting, when I talk directly to practices, something that I touch on regularly is like you have to establish your standard of care, and that means what it sounds like. What is your baseline expectation for the things that you're going to offer to have a baseline expectation for the result that your patient is going to receive? And if you're racing to the bottom with the prices and products that that you expect from your labs, then you're racing to the bottom with your patient outcomes also. I'm not saying get the most expensive thing all the time. What I'm saying is make better decisions, make more informed decisions. And Greg, to your point, one of the ways you make a more informed decision is by educating yourself first.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I I heard this in talking through. So with our Spider-Man analogy in mind, just think about the basic potential here for a minute, right? On our island today, there's X number, it varies, right? There's a large population of people that have a visual correction. And those people are of the mindset that they're going to go to the doctor, right? Get their glasses or go somewhere and get prescription glasses. Within that subset, there's a massive group that wear contact lenses. Today, most contact lens patients don't also wear um, rescue glasses or glasses that are going to improve their sleep health and productivity. Right? Most don't wear it. So there's millions of people right there, contact lens patients. That's a gold mine. And then on top of that, now we can tap into the population that does not wear glasses or have a visual correction is bigger than our island today. So if we do this right, we do it honestly with real medical proof, not company sponsored white papers, we can tap into this audience, help a lot of people, and that all starts with educating your labs, getting in sync with them, giving them the information, and being very assertive of, I want this particular product, right? And I heard this from the same doctor I was telling. She was mentioning is you've got to get in sync with your optical lab, because just like if I'm prescribing a drug and then the pharmacy does not fulfill that exact drug, or at the end of the day, I have now prescribed something that I knew had medical proof to solve the problem, but then the patient was not given what I prescribed. And what happens now is if we're on that mainstream island again, we get something to the patient, in our example, the glasses. They're not helping their sleep. It's not making them more productive. And now that immediately sours them and they say, these things don't work, right? And then they tell their friends, and now Eyecare goes right back to its island again of making something bigger, smaller, or playing with a fancy tint.
Right.
So
And this
if
goes
we,
back to what I'd said earlier. Actually, eyewear is eye care, like precisely in this moment. If and this is like a conversation for as long as I've been in the industry is about capture rate. You know, what happens when a patient gets a prescription and doesn't get glasses from you. What you're describing there is the risk of that, and practices by and large don't want to have this conversation with the patient. Like, you'll give them the prescription as you should and all of that, but I say, look, I would like for you to discuss this with our optician, because the things that we're going to offer you are both specific to your needs and carefully chosen based on our understanding of the science. What you're going to get online might be fine, and it might not do anything for you. And that's a mechanism that you can both win trust and win business. And I think there's a lot of trepidation to go down that road.
No, completely. The other thing too is I know I hear this a lot is, gosh, online glasses are terrible. Online companies are, they're the antichrist and all things like that. What's, believe it or not, if you talk to some of those that are using medical-based products, there's nothing they would rather do more than to send the eye exam to the independent
Right.
eye care practice. So, that's the best practice if people want to know who they are is what an opportunity to partner because they really don't want to be in that business. A lot of the right ones, they want to stay in their lanes. They're just branching out because they see like, wow, if they're not going to fill it at the eye care practice, I might as well do it. Right.
Right.
Go ahead.
And like along those same lines, most patients who are shopping online aren't really doing so because of price. Some are for sure, right? There are definitely people who think they can get stuff less for a lower price online, and sometimes they can, but often they can't. Frequently, the reason they're shopping online is for convenience. They can look at frames, they can look at lenses, they can see like what this website says about their stuff and feel like they're being informed. And it's easier, and think about the psychology of this, the folks that are listening at home. If you're might be interested in a product and you're browsing online but you're not fully convinced, it's easier to say no when shopping online than it is when you're face to face with a person. And a lot of folks are just give me my prescription so I can go because they don't want to have that kind of what they perceive as a confrontation when they say no to your optician. But
Right.
that's an argument then that your website should be more robust than it is. If there are specific products that you offer to solve specific problems in your practice, like blue light, for example, having that information available to your customers in a way that they can inform themselves and make a better decision will make you a better practice, full stop, but will also make you a better destination for them to purchase this eyewear from.
Yeah, no, well said. Uh, so, going a little bit deeper there, step one is hold your lab partner accountable and work together to educate them as well with copies of the science. I promise you the right ones will appreciate it, right? Think about maybe blue light eliminates from your vocabulary slightly, right? Into more symptom in solution, like we talked about. And if we're giving the right product to that large audience in the mainstream wellness space, they're going to appreciate it and promise you tell a friend. We've always talked about referrals and stuff like that as being a huge something. But that is really the massive opportunity. And as we talked about certain online companies that sell medical based product, there is an opportunity for cross referral contrary to popular belief, that's out there. And what's really interesting to put a pin in this for step two is different than anything we put into our body, or all these hacks that we do. Glasses are some of the most non-intrusive things, right? We can take them on and off. Steve, to your point before, you can get these medical-based lenses without sacrificing fashion, right?
Right.
You can still wear an amazing looking frame. All of those things you can get from your eye care practice and happy days. And you can eliminate, in a lot of cases, nothing wrong, but you can stop taking your melatonin altogether. Why put something in your body that can risk contraindication with other things? So it can actually replace a lot of the things that you're already doing today without risk of contraindication. And that's pretty exciting. And then contact lens patients, at the end of the day, all these bombardments and stress in our day, the contact lens patient has something affixed to their eyeball. Why not give them a set of glasses that'll help their eyes relax? So it's not just the non-prescription, it's within our own four walls inside the practices.
Yeah, there's a lot that can be done for the captive audience that is currently in your office that is often missed. And, some of that is because your practice is busy. It's hard to dedicate the time to every single patient. If you're seeing 35, 40 patients a day, it makes it more challenging to have a more fulsome conversation with each individual. But that is, in fact, the challenge of this moment is how do you optimize for each individual that comes in to your practice? Lots of
Sure.
folks that I speak with in the industry are genuinely committed to providing a better scale of service in their practice than in their competition. That's how they would position it, right? You talk to any
Sure.
OD owner and they say, I offer high quality products. My team does excellent work. We provide better care for our patients than they can get elsewhere. And if that's true, and I hope that it is, if that's true, then adding something like this is an amplifier to that perspective. If you're helping them get great glasses for their day to day or contacts that they can wear all day long without any discomfort and they can see clearly, that's awesome. All of that is a win. But if you can add to that performance eyewear that makes it easier for them to get to sleep, or make, to your point, Greg, makes it easier for them to relax while wearing their contacts, or working on a computer for 8 hours a day, or whatever we're putting our eyes through, our systems through every day, there are things that we can do at minimal effort from our teams and minimal cost to our customers, which does add to our bottom line. But more importantly, it makes us a more holistic business.
Yeah. Well said. I think too, Steve, if we think about it as, educating our labs and holding them accountable, that's really the step one. And that's the hardest part of the equation, right? Step two is, and anyone that wants this information, we can certainly send it, is get the science in your hands about the product. One of our docs, when I was asking some of these questions, is she said, I keep the science right there. She said, no disrespect, but I have engineers that come and see me, right? Or professional people. And a lot of times they want to see just even the little PowerPoint like summaries of some of the science because they're actually curious about this. And
Right.
she said, a lot of times it draws our patients closer to us because, like, wow, I never thought glasses could do something like this. I never thought I could sleep better, at the end of the day. And so that's I think a really good second point. And then the mapping, like right, the mapping within the optical itself of which version of the lens is going to be best for which condition. And I'll give you an example. When BlueTech came out the first time, it was a hideous yellow lens, right? It was the darkest yellow canary thing you could possibly put on it. The good news is for those that that feel the vanity issues or things like that are on the lenses, there's much clearer solutions now. But map the specific product to these conditions that to these health and wellness type of improvements, and that's a pretty straightforward one. And then maybe a step before that is a major point is this is something that does not take extra time necessarily in the practice or very little. We get with it, you're, totally busy. All the practices are busy, but just listening to these practitioners, how they integrate it is they hold the lab accountable. They map out their products. They get copies of the science in a PowerPoint file so can show it if someone is interested at the end of the day. And then really take advantage of, as you know, Steve, there's wonderful systems that are out there that'll get pre-information about the patient ahead of time is start programming in those keys and those questions, what supplements are you taking? If it maps to melatonin, there's a home run, right? There's all of these kind of things that you can take that open up that conversation. If their medications are, if they have ADHD medication, tons, millions and millions of people do. That's a sure cue in, on something taking place. And then on top of that, just the visual, just being aware where the team is looking at, man, do they have a specialty watch, or a ring or a Whoop band or one of these 80 million wearable devices on them? That kind of thing sparks up a good conversation and an opportunity to not just solve a problem, but enhance something and help them on their wellness journey through eyewear. And so I think those are huge opportunities. I'm just trying to go through some of the high points, right, that I heard from the doctors. The other that was really interesting is, and I love this term, I hope we reuse it, is in the for contact lens patients specifically, all those bombardments are there, but now we have something affixed to the eye, right? And we've talked about how often have we talked about having a backup pair of glasses and something like that. But now there's a real medical reason that we can improve sleep health and productivity and help them relax. And the term that I heard, I thought just was great, it's called their rescue glasses. So when their eyes are tired and worn out at the end of the day, take out your contact lenses and put on your put on your rescue glasses to help the brain, the body, and your eyes relax all together. Again, another thing that can bring glasses right into that mainstream health and wellness.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
what
Like as you're describing it, it sounds like putting on slippers after a long day of wearing like rigid shoes.
that's an even better analogy is not, not endorsing drinking or anything like that, but one of the opticians said, she goes, it's just like, it's like a breath mint for your eyes, kind of, is you put them on, your eyes relax, and it's like having a glass of wine at the end of the day just to unwind, but
Yeah.
it does it just naturally. And some of the doctors were just mentioning also in the group saying, well, the other thing too is we often tell people don't wear your contacts full time, right? Because debris can get in it, everything like that. So there's so much good that can happen for a rescue pair of glasses. And we can certainly help people find an easy solution that's cost effective that'll make you the hero at the end of the day. So just shoot us an email. We're happy to put it through. So, but there's that contact lens. And then for that non-prescription, I love this technique or best practice thought that was in there is they'll actually have our lenses in a frame and they'll give them to the patient and say, wear them for a week and don't wear them for a week and see how you feel. That's one of the easiest ways to gain a new patient, a new advocate. And at least 5 or 6 of these practices were saying that is our single best source of new referrals into the practice, where we'll get people just walking in to get their non-prescription glasses. Because by the data, Steve, they're either going to buy it online or buy it in the practice,
Right.
and so I hope this helps, but these are tangible techniques that don't take extra time. It makes it very, very simple. It adds extra pairs of glasses to the practice from a profitability standpoint. And you're now opening up a whole new audience to solve problems, and not even just problems, but improve their overall wellness on their journey. It just becomes a tool in their toolbox,
Yeah,
much like a
that
gamer has for their devices.
mhm.
Kid, that's the last one I was just looking at. Kids that play video games, things like that. Great opportunities out there to work
Well,
together
let's
with all.
let's not limit it to kids. I am fully a 40-year-old man who plays video games
Yes,
all the time.
yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. So, my son, if we had a controller duct taped to his hand, he'd play as long as we possibly could. And it is, whether you're 2 or you're 92, this wellness and protective opportunity is there. And I can't wait to see it. If we do this right as an industry and practices are educating and holding their labs accountable with info, they're educating on the science, they're just paying attention and being observant to the people. What are people wearing wellness wise in the practice, or see shirts and things like that? We're going to create extremely happy patients. They're going to look to Eyecare for things they never thought they would in a million years, right? Which is ability to improve sleep health and productivity. And it maps to, financially, because that's a part of it, right? If you do right by your patients, you solve their problems, you treat this just like a therapeutic or some kind of drug that you would prescribe, is the rescue glasses for contact lens patients and the non-prescription and readers, making sure that it's got medical proof of impact. That will really allow us to cross and add so many patients to our practice.
Yeah,
And
Greg, I can't thank you enough for sharing all the insights that
sure.
you've shared. There are obviously there's tons of best practices as laid out here. For the folks that want to get that information from you, how do they reach out?
Sure. Just send us one email. Pretty easy. Just to make it with anything that sparks your interest or what what you want to see. It's just info. Everyone spells BlueTech wrong. I know we've been around a while, but info at BlueTech, BLU, no E, TECH, lenses.com.
Excellent. And I want to highlight two quick points before we wrap up here. One is that the reason I want to highlight these, I think they might get lost in the rest of the bigger concepts, but update your intake form. Throughout the conversation today, Greg, you mentioned a couple of times, like if your intake form has space to get this information, then you can do what we discussed. So, but if you're along the exact same lines, if your intake form doesn't, then you can't, or then it becomes harder to do so. And I would urge everybody listening here, if you haven't updated your intake form in over a year, please go and look at it and make those updates. Also, think about like a digital intake that'll just make it easier for you to create those updates, to test different things, and more convenient for your patients when they come in to fill stuff out. The other thing that I would want to highlight is this works best, like most things, in partnership. You mentioned a couple of times, work with your labs, have the science available to you. In order for that to work, you have to have a good, functional, fruitful relationship with your labs. If you just started with your lab today, probably not going to work for you to tell them how to do their stuff. But if you've got an ongoing relationship and you want to make it better or stronger, and you want to ensure that they support your business in the direction that you want to go in, this is a conversation that you should be having with your reps and the people at home base at the labs. Greg, any final thoughts before we wrap up today?
No, just on that last one, you're right. It doesn't need to be contentious with the lab, and we can literally give you all the tools that you need to have that conversation so that they understand, I'm prescribing this for a medical reason. I promise you the right ones will respect it. And then, when there's new innovations and new cool things that come in, now everyone's going to be on the same team.
Exactly. Greg, thank you so much. Everybody, thank you for listening to Best Practices. We look forward to seeing you in the next episode.